Shristi, I'm going to ping you so that everybody can see you. So welcome, Shristi. So Shristi, of course, she is she has done zoology. She's a life science. She has a master's in life science. She's been educator, develops courses where she works with schools and teachers. She's been teaching this course on forensic science for the last 4 years at least, and she's an absolute life science expert in-house at GenWise. But what I know about you and your class is your kids are, one, it's a complete crime scene and the kids are having a blast. They're all trying to, every time I've gone into that class, they'll ask me, ma'am, they'd read out the case and they'll tell me, ma'am, who do you think is the murderer? What do you think you need for this? What do you need? Like fingerprints? Do you know how to lift fingerprints? And there's just so much that is happening in their class. They're trying to look at blood under microscope. They're trying to test using saliva. So there's lots of hands-on stuff happening in that classroom. And the kids are just constantly busy trying to figure out who is the murderer. So Shristi, would love to start with one, just introduce yourself and share a little bit more about what motivates you to sort of teach this course. You've been doing it for a few years. What motivates you to come work with these young children?
So my motivation towards teaching actually started through one of the summer program, which I interned when I was doing my master's in 2018. I interned as a teaching assistant, and this was one of the similar gifted program. And that time I discovered, so I already had inclination towards science, but I discovered how, if given a right opportunity to these students, and if I was at their place, how much fun I would have had to understand hands-on science through hands-on activity and the relevance of it in real life, which somehow we missed, but I was amazed by the opportunity that was given to these students. So that was the first step of me being interested in teaching and learning through teaching more science. So yeah, that was, so the summer program is what inspired me. Second thing, my course, yes, it is very hands-on. We do a lot of hands-on activity, and it's not just hands-on, it also involves discussions and which is around cases. So as the topic suggests, forensic science, we cover a lot of concept which is regarding biology or chemistry or physics, but we do it through, again, like Sukanya ma'am's course, through the process of scientific inquiry. Even though we start, so what our session look like, we start with a case, we give students a case. So for example, the topic is DNA analysis. Students will, they will have a case, they won't know the topic of the day, but they will have a case. They will ask questions about that case to understand what evidence there can be. So they will think like a forensic scientist at that point of time. They will think, okay, if there is any bodily substances that can be used for DNA, or is there any fingerprint or the point of contact that can be used for fingerprints. So they analyze this, they come up with different hypotheses of so they can work independently, sometimes they work collaboratively, but they come up with hypothesis. Okay, if this is the evidence, then for example, someone has been poisoned, and if the glass has been touched by someone else than the victim, then there's the possibility that the fingerprint on the glass other than the victim could be of the suspect. So they think through such situations, they come up with different hypotheses. Now the motivation here to learn are these cases. So to understand and to solve the case, they need to know how forensic scientists study fingerprints, or and how one fingerprint is different from another. So what I've seen is they have a big motivation to learn because of these cases. And even if they find science difficult, or they have a love for science, they find this very interesting to solve these cases based on the concepts that they already know in school, or they build on through these courses. Second,
Sorry, so to summarize, what I was hearing is what excites or brings the students into it is largely these cases that they get very excited about. But through that, as they try to solve it, they're learning a lot of the life science content, the chemistry content. They're learning to think, how to analyze, how to think like a forensic scientist. So that's what I understood from what you're saying, like just to summarize what you said, or paraphrase rather.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, and second thing that I also observe, so this would be my sixth or seventh time with these programs.
Hmm.
And mostly with forensic science, the main thing that they learn is that the patience.
Hmm.
So when they do the experiment, when they are figuring out, so
Hmm.
while they are
Hmm.
understanding fingerprints,
Hmm.
they don't get answers easily. We don't give them, oh, what are the different types of
Hmm.
fingerprints? They
Hmm.
have to collect samples from
Hmm.
their peers, from us, from themselves, and
Hmm.
figure out themselves, okay, what are the three major categories of patterns that
Hmm.
that I can use to differentiate one fingerprint from another? Or what are the minor patterns that can be used to subcategorize those major ones? So
Hmm.
they come up with this themselves with a lot of discussion. Some
Hmm.
of the hints we give, some of the questions they have, they find answers to it. They do mistakes, then they redo it.
Hmm.
And so through this process, it takes an entire day to understand a concept. And the
Hmm.
major part goes into understanding the concept. Once they understand it, okay,
Yeah.
this is the way um, I can study fingerprints. Then they get the evidence from us and they solve the case.
Yeah.
And they get great joy from solving the case once they've understood the entire concept.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, the patterns I'm seeing across what you, Sukanya ma'am, and Murli sir also shared is, one is through the context, we're trying to again build curiosity, we're trying to encourage questioning, we're trying to encourage kids to look at patterns, to analyze, to come up with certain what are the patterns they're observing, and to understand the